Weather update. It's finally beautiful out. Short sleeves, shorts, sandals, flip-flop weather. Good news is the warm weather has got me invigorated, inspired, and we're gonna lay down some fertilizer here. But before we do that, that's not part of the video. Got some more rods in. So finally, the warm weather, I got rid of a few different rods, and we're kind of retooling the arsenal for 2022 here. And so we've gotten a few old models. We'll talk about that. Sold some older Dobyns Savvy rods and Coalition rods and a few rods that have served me well for probably 8+ years, and just passing them on to some others. And now we're going to open this up, and I want to show you there are quite a few rods in that tube, and they do a great job packing them if you ever order from the Dobyns factory or have a warranty claim or anything like that. So I just want to do a quick glimpse of that. We'll unbag them and then take a look at what the rods I bought and talk about what I'm replacing and what I'm going to use them for. So let's check it out. I know, based on Facebook and social media and things like that, I know a lot of you get really nervous about buying rods online, ordering them, and things like that, but I never worry when they're coming from Dobyns. Let me show you why. This is a very heavy-duty, rock-solid fiber tube. It's definitely a little heavier gauge than standard and what most people ship rod tubes in. 2, it's labeled. Open this end first, and there's a reason. They pack these in a very specific way. Solid end cap, stapled in multiple places. We're just going to get our little pliers here and go ahead and get a hold of this to pop these out. All right, so we got the cap off. First thing we'll notice is there is a good amount of dunnage and bubble wrap right here. All right, let's see what's inside. So we're going to pull that out. And we're going to slide it out, and you'll notice that these are all wrapped very well. And there's a good chunk of rods in there. So one thing you'll notice is they are wrapped and alternated. So half of the rods, butt ends down here, tips, and if you flip it around, they're nested. So the tips of half the rods are protected by these butts, and vice versa on this side. Bubble wrapped multiple places up and down the shaft, giving it support the whole way, and taped off. So we're going to split these open, break them out individually, and we'll get in and talk about what's all in this bundle of goodness right here. Here we go. I got my 4 rods here, all unwrapped. I'm going to step through them. I'm going to talk about what rods they replaced in my lineup, why I'm replacing them, and why I'm excited about fishing them. Probably have some future rod videos on all of these, where we dig in and do like a full review of each one. This is more of an unboxing, first glance kind of update of what rods I'm going and getting and updating in the arsenal, and then there'll probably be some full arsenal videos too. So first up, the only spinning rod update. So this is my very first Dobyns series Dobyns rod. So good buddy Sam, he's got a line of 3 rods, and this is the Sam 723 SF. This is a 7.2 3-power rod. So I ended up selling one of my used Savvy 703s, which is a rod that I used for jig worms, shaky heads. Primarily that's the 2 main things, sometimes swimmers and things like menace grubs. And the rod was great. It was awesome. Still was in great condition. I've had it for like 8 or 10 years. It's been amazing, but you can't get them anymore. So when people ask me, like, what do I use for this technique? I'd like to be able to send them to a rod that they can go out and find in a store like Omnia or Dobyns or anywhere else like that. I will put links in the description for all of these rods down below if you want to check them out. I also kind of want to jump a little bit. Shaky heads, jig worms, casting a little bit bigger Kitex, and menace grubs on jig heads. I'm typically making pretty long casts, or I'm fishing in grass, or in the case of a shaky head, I'm texposing or the hook is buried. So I want a little more power. I want a little more length. So the power is actually very similar on this rod. The action of this is ever so slightly faster than the old Savvy, just a touch, a little more crisp. And that extra 2 inches of length doesn't seem like a lot, but 2 inches can matter a lot, if you know what I mean. But that extra length and rod is just going to be better for me for fishing those techniques, and I'm pretty excited. We'll get into this, look at the balance, but it's a pretty sharp looking rod. Kind of got kind of a, I don't know, bronze, you know, good, almost like a good looking smally color to the Dobyns logo. I believe this Dobyns series rod retails for right around $170. So that 7.2 medium fast action, 3/16 to 5/8 ounce, rated for 8 to 14 pound line. And I primarily plan to do shaky heads, jig worms, menace scrubs, a little bit bigger Kitex. That'll be the main setup for this. It'll be fished with probably a 3,000 or 4,000 size reel, and it'll mainly probably have like 20-pound braid on it to like a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. So that's rod number one. Now let's ramp things up from here. Let's get out of the spinning rod stuff. Next up here, we have the Cadence 744C. And that is a 7'4" 4-power rod, rated for 10 to 20 pound line, 1/4 ounce to 1 ounce, labeled as a heavy fast action. So this is my first Cadence that isn't a crankbait rod. I have the Cadence 735 CV. I like it quite a bit. I've caught some nice fish on it. It works really well. This is my first, non-moving bait, reaction bait Cadence. This rod is replacing a 704 Savvy casting rod, which, like the other one, was still in great condition. Moved on to another user who's probably going to catch a ton of fish on it. But I wanted to get into the new series. I wanted to see what these Cadence are all about. A lot of positive vibes about them on social media, Facebook. My users, you viewers, tell me how much you love the Cadence. So I thought, hey, Rich, you should probably get one. So when people have questions about it, you can talk more knowledgeably about the Cadence. And I went from a 7 to a 7.4. I just found that I wasn't using that 704 a lot. I like a little bit longer rod. This rod will probably be a very multi-tool rod. I will probably throw spinnerbaits on it. I will probably throw swim jigs on it. I'll probably throw light Texas rigs and tubes and things like that. For all those things, I would like a 7'3", 7'4" rod more than a 7-foot even rod. I also like the red styling of the Cadence is very much cosmetically very similar to the old Savvy. So in that respect, not a big change. I'll have probably a 7-to-1, 7-to-3-to-1 type reel on this. Maybe even an 8. But that's the move for the Cadence. The Cadence comes in at a very nice price point of $189.99, making it a sub-$200 rod, a very nice rod, well balanced, very aesthetically good looking rod. I'm excited to go and test this out and set the hook a few times. Next up on the list, 735C, Champion XP 735C. So the rod this is replacing is actually also another old Savvy 735 Micro. So a pretty similar rod. That micro rod I was using a lot for like buzz toads and buzz baits and things like that. I'm kind of doing a little bit of a shifting here. I got this rod to throw frogs. The last couple years for my tactical frogging where I'm skipping around docks, skipping under trees, short casts, weed clumps, being more accurate, up close and personal, I was using a 735 Savvy, which worked great. Caught a ton of great fish on it. I loved what it did. The 735 Savvy also has a very similar rod action and power to this, but the micro guides most of the time were good with straight braid. But in that season right around the spring when the cottonwood or the dogwood blooms and all that white stuff, it's bad in all guides, but it's completely miserable with micro guides. And that is one of the best times of the year to be throwing a frog or a buzzbait or things like that. So getting that was just, I wanted to move on from that micro. They were light. A lot of times they were good, but it was just a kind of a fad in the rod industry that's kind of went away. And I think that's for a reason. They're not the most popular. If you love them, that's great. I think they still make them in the Sierra series. I'm going to move that 735 Sierra down into the position of the Sierra or the Savvy, and that's going to be my more buzzbait, buzz toad. It's just got a little bit slow, ever so slightly slower action. I think that'll serve well and fish buzzbaits even a little bit better, and ploppers and things like that. And then I'm moving this up because I love fishing frogs, reinvesting, and this thing is going to look amazing with my frog reel, which is the Daiwa Coastal, which is that bright blue reel that you've seen in videos past. Cosmetically, weight-wise, a little more power. Excited to bring the 735 XP Champ into the lineup as a tactical frog rod, and you're going to see a lot more of this. And so this rod comes in at, I believe, $250 or $260, right around there. You can check my facts down in the links below. I'll have some links down to Omni or something for where you can get these rods. But super stoked to have this rod into the lineup to jack some frogfish, and hopefully very, very soon. Last rod today is this Dobyns Champion XP, also 764C. This is going to replace an old Coalition series 734, which I really like that rod, but then again, that's another rod. It was a bit of a collector's item. It still worked great. It was functional. I've had it forever, but you know, I can't tell you, oh, that this is the rod I use for buzz baits or whatever. And I actually, this rod, shout out to Billy Coles, Smith Mountain Lake Guide Service. Went fishing with him last spring or the spring before, and he had this rod rigged up with a 6-inch mag draft, and I was skipping this around docks, and I caught a couple really nice fish skipping mag drafts with this. So this rod is kind of new. It's replacing that like spot with the Coalition, but I'm gonna throw mag drafts. I think deep heavy chatterbaits, like 3/4 to 1 ounce chatterbaits. I think I could do some swim jigging on this. I think I could do maybe like rip some big like 3/4 ounce traps out of grass with this rod. It's a 7.6 4 power, so 10 to 20 pound line, 1/4 to 1.5 ounce heavy fast action. Pretty powerful rod. I like it a lot, and I got to use it then. I've been thinking about getting one ever since I fished with Billy, so shout out to Billy. But this is rated for Carolina rigs, light flipping, jig, spinnerbaits, and small swim baits. So a 6-inch swim bait, that's probably the biggest thing that I'm going to probably throw mag drafts and things like that more often. But I think I also can use this as like a Carolina rig rod, a football jig rod. I think this is just going to be another like really great utility rod, much like that 744, but with a little more beef. And that's why we got this rod. Also coming in at that like 260-ish price point. But this is probably the one I'm most excited about. And I'm also kind of concerned that I may want to get, I think Gary mentioned in our sit-down chat live stream a few weeks ago that the people that get this rod tend to have multiples of them. Don't be surprised if down the road you see, you know, maybe 2 or 3s in the boat because I like them so much. Speaking of throwing mag drafts, if you want to see the video where I first got my hands on the 764C out with Billy Coles, make sure you check out the video on the screen right here.